Good day, I am Master the Genius, and today I want to show us secret on how to tackle past questions. In my 10 years teaching experience, I noticed that one of the challenges students face, JAMB is around the corner, WAEC is around the corner, NECO, SSCE exam, etc. are around the corner. And one of the challenge I noticed students face is that they don't know how to tackle past questions. So in this class, I'll be giving us 5 secrets on how to tackle past questions. And how I'm going to do it is that I will give you 5 secrets and I will also give you 5 questions. So I give you secret 1, we apply that secret to all the questions. We come back, give you secret 2, apply that secret to all the questions so that individually on your own, you can learn and practice this thing yourself even towards academic excellence. So you will have to stay all through the end of this video because I give you the secret one after the other. I give you secret 1, we apply it to all the 5 questions. So what we are doing is 5x 5q, 5 secrets 5 questions. All right, let's go into it. Question 1. In a constitutional monarchy, the powers of monarch are so you now know question 1. So question 1 is, in a constitutional monarchy, the powers of monarch are, that is question 1. What is now secret 1? Secret 1, when you are solving past question, is to ask yourself, this question is coined from which topic? So you have to identify, first of all, the topic that question is coming from. Because there is nothing that doesn't have source. There is nothing that doesn't have origin. So you have to trace the origin of that question. It will help you a lot. So the first thing, I give you the first secret already. So let us apply it to our first question. So the question is, in a constitutional monarch, the powers of monarch are, now, secret 1. Let us identify from which topic does this question emanate from. This topic, this particular question is from constitution. It's from constitution, constitutionalism, monarchy, and type of monarchy. So for you to understand, for you to be able to answer this question, you have to know what constitution is, what constitutionalism is, what monarch is, and types of monarch that we have. All right, so let's apply the same secret to question 2. A system of government in which the component units retain considerable independence is called, I won't spend much time here. This question is from system of government. And under that system of government, we have many concepts, many political concepts, and many political theories that you should study. That is why it is essential for you to trace the origin of that question. Let's apply that secret 1 also to question 3. Which of the following perform quasi-judicial function? Now, this question is from separation of power and checks and balances. As you do separation of power, you will come across how power is being equally shared between the 3 arms of government and how that sometimes they play an overlap function. All right, let's apply the same secrets to question 4. Which of these is not an organ of the United Nations? This question is from international organization. Question 5. Which of the following is a pressure group rather than a political party? Very simple. This question is from pressure group and political party. So for you to be able to answer this question, you have to go back to know what a pressure group stands for, to know what political parties stand for, to know their aims and their objectives, and even their structure. Even pressure group has types. All right, so what is now the secret 2 in tackling past question? Now, the secret 2 is that once you are able to trace the origin of that question, study that topic. So I told you already that this question 1 is from constitution, constitutionalism, monarchy, and types of monarch. Which means if this question drives you into colliding with constitution, constitutionalism, monarchy, and types of monarch, then you now need to stay there and study what is constitution. What are the sources of constitution? What is constitutionalism? What is monarchical system of government? What are the types of monarchical system of government. And as you are studying the topic, as you are studying the topic that your question sourced from, there are also two things under that. Number one is to ensure that you know the definition, the features of that topic. Then the second one is to now know how it is being practiced in different countries. Because I need you to know that government is not just theory. Government is not just a political concept or political theory. There are practical sides to government. And one of the secrets to understanding government, one of the secrets to widen your scope in government is that anything you are taught in government class, you look for an equivalent example. For example, you are taught by election that this is what by election means. You check your political society. Maybe you are in Nigeria. Was there any time that Nigeria practiced this by election? In what situation? In whose case did Nigeria apply this by election? So you are taught something as theory in class. Now you have the practical. There is nobody that can take that knowledge from you. So when you want to apply the secret to, which is that study that topic, where that question comes from, there are also two. One is that know the theory, know the concepts, which means the theoretical side of that particular, topic. Then also know the practical side. All right, let's apply that to question one. In a constitutional monarch, so constitution is a body of agreed rules and regulation that governs or guide a state. That's constitution. Why constitutionalism is the act of strictly adhering to the constitution. You can have constitution and people are not following constitution. But when you have constitution, people are actually meant to follow constitution. So when constitution is in place and people strictly adhere, people strictly follow the constitution, that is constitutionalism. What is monarchical system of government? Monarchical system of government is the government where queen, king, princess, prince, emperor, or empress rules and govern. That is monarchical system of government. And in monarchical system of government, power is hereditary. Power is transferred through bloodline. Power is transferred through bloodline. So you have to be a royal family for you to even have the hope of ascending the throne someday. All right? And that is what distinguishes monarchical system of government from republicanism. So I'm not going there this day. Now, there are now two types of monarchical system of government. Number one, we have constitutional monarch and we have absolute monarch. Now, constitutional monarch is that system where the monarch is under the constitution. So a country that practices constitutional monarch, the monarch, which means whether the king, prince, queen, or whatever their monarch is called, is under the constitution. Constitution is supreme, not the ruler. That's constitutional monarch. The second one is absolute monarch. In an absolute monarch, all governmental powers are domiciled in the head. And we have, now let us now go to the other side of practical example. Let me cite example. For constitutional monarch, we have a country that practices this. UK, United Kingdom, is one of the best examples of a country that practices constitutional monarch. You hear King Charles. Now, King Charles is the king of England. Yet, King Charles is under constitution. Constitution is supreme in UK, in United Kingdom, not King Charles. So there are things so even the powers of King Charles is given him by the constitution. So that means that the UK practices constitutional monarch. And for absolute monarch, we have the Saudi Arabia and other countries, especially Islam-dominated countries. They practices, absolute monarch, where all the governmental powers are domiciled in the king or prince, whatever they call their monarch. So in that case, the monarch, the king, will be supreme to constitution. So that is Secret 2. And with that, we will be able to answer the question already. So in a constitutional monarchy, the powers of monarch are, in a constitutional monarch, the power of the monarch are limited by constitution. Now, let's apply the same secret 2 to question 2. It says that a system of government in which component unit retains considerable independence is called. So I told you we have been able to trace where the question comes from, which is system of government. And under system of government, we have confederalism, we have federalism, we have unitarianism, and so on and so forth, presidentialism, parliamentary system of government, or cabinet system of government. So if you want to now, so I told you that first of all, then study the political concept. That is one. Then the second one, now see examples. Maybe you are able to define what federalism is. Then you now apply it maybe to Nigeria and Nigeria federalism. How does federalism plays out in Nigeria politics? It will really help your understanding of government. All right. So in this question now, the answer, a system of government in which component units relate considerable independence. Now that is confederal. Because in a confederalism, it's just like you are bringing different sovereign states together. So because you are bringing different sovereign states together under one umbrella, they will still retain a high level of sovereignty. That is why under confederal system of government, a particular part of that confederation can secede. Secession means breaking away of a significant part of a country. So a particular part can decide to secede. And I will give you an example of this. Now, let's go to federalism. Federalism is a system of government where political powers are constitutionally shared between the central government and other component units. That's federalism. I will give you an example, cite example of that as well. Unitarianism, that's unitary system of government. The unitary system of government is a system of government where political powers are domiciled or centered in the central authority. So all governmental powers, political powers, is with the central authority. The powers are not constitutionally shared. And presidential system of government is a system of government where the head of state is also the head of government. Let us apply the second rule under the second law, under the second secret. What's the second rule? Is that what are the practical side to this thing? Because I need you to know that government is not just theoretical. If you just go for the theory of government, you won't know government that way. You won't broaden your scope of government that way. What you will be doing is to cram it, and cramming political concepts will not do you any good. But when you study a particular political concept, what you do is to look for a practical equivalence. Maybe such a thing has happened in history, maybe in the history of your own country or other countries. So you can only forget that concept if you can forget that event. And it's very difficult for us to forget events. If someone tells you something, someone teach you something in class, you may forget. But if it is an event, there are many movies that some of us have seen until now. We haven't forgotten those movies. So it's difficult for us to forget events. So that is why you attach every political concept you are taught, you attach to an event, an equivalent event in politics. That makes that thing to stick. All right, confederalism. So I told you that confederalism is bringing together different sovereign states under one umbrella. We have example of Senegambia. There was a time that Senegal and Gambia was governed just as one state, but they break away and there was no trouble. But one typical example now is like this international organization. Let me give you ECOWAS as an example. ECOWAS is Economic Community of West African States. It comprises all the West African countries. We have about 16 countries in West Africa. But recently, like about three countries in West Africa seceded, broke away from ECOWAS. And there was really nothing you could do to them. You could not stop them. Because this country on their own, they have sovereignty. So they could easily break away from ECOWAS. Burkina Faso is one, typical example. About three of them, they break away, and the other ECOWAS states could not stop them because these are sovereign states. So it was easy for a particular part of that confederation, to break away because it is federation. It is confederation, so to say. But in a federal system of government, Nigeria is a typical example. Nigeria practices federalism. That is why you see that in Nigeria, we have federal government, we have state government, we have local authority. And you will notice that in a federal constitution, you will have exclusive list. Things that are contained in the exclusive list are things that only the central authority can do. We have concurrent. Things that are contained in the concurrent list are things that both the central authority and regional authority can do. And we have residual list, which is things that local authorities, can do. All right, let's progress. So Nigeria is a typical example. That's why you see that the federal government has power, the state government has their own power, and the local governments also have their own power. But it's not so in every country, because there are also countries that practices unitary system of government, like Britain, United Kingdom. They practice a unitary system of government, where all powers are in the central government. And presidentialism. Nigeria is also a typical example. The head of state is also the head of government. We don't have the head of state different from head of government. All right, let's apply the same secret to question 3. Which of the following perform quasi? So I told you that this question is from separation of power. So let's now look at separation of power. So separation of power is the sharing of political powers between arms of government to ensure checks and balances, accountability, and efficiency. The doctrine of separation of power was propounded by Baron de Montesquieu. Baron de Montesquieu is a French theorist. He was the one that propounded it. That power is not meant to be domiciled at one level. Now, in government, we have 3 arms: the executive, we have the legislature, and we have the judiciary. And they all have their rules, their function, their responsibility, and their duties. But there are times that some of these arms perform a function that is similar to other. So the meaning of quasi means similar. Quasi means similar. So, for example, if executives perform a particular function that look like that of the judiciary, it means that that function is a quasi-judicial function. If the judiciary also perform a function that looks or that is similar to that of the legislature, that means that function is quasi-legislative function. All right. So we can answer the question now. Which of the following perform quasi-judicial function? Now you must know that all of the following, and I told you already that the second part of that secret 2 is to now use practical example. What are the practical examples? How can police perform quasi-judicial function? Do you know that it is the function of the judiciary to settle disputes? It is the judiciary that settles disputes. But there are times that the police, settle some minor disputes. It's not every dispute that end in court. There are many disputes that end, with the police. Meanwhile, the police are not under the judiciary. They are under the executive. So, in a case where police also settle some minor disputes, what they are doing is that they are performing a function similar to that of the judiciary, and that is the quasi-judicial function. How does executive perform quasi-judicial function? Now, there is something, I don't know if it is applicable all over the country, but in Nigeria, the president at the federal level and the governor at the state level, they have something called prerogative of mercy. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, applied it recently. The thing is even going everywhere, controversial. Now, the president has the power to pardon some convicts, some people that have been convicted without serving all their jail time. Maybe someone is convicted to 20 years imprisonment and the person has already served 5. There is a way that the president has what we call prerogative of mercy. President can pardon. The state government also can do that at state level. So when an executive does that, they are performing a function similar to that of the judiciary. So that's what we call quasi-judicial function. The legislature also, when it comes to investigation, questioning offenders. Who does that? It is the judiciary, so to say. But there are times also that the legislative arm can summon people. It happens in the case of when VDM accused Bobrisky to have been given some treatment when he was in correctional, center. It was the legislative act to summon VDM, Bobrisky, and other people that were involved. So that thing that the legislative arm of government of Nigeria was doing then is actually a quasi-judicial function because they are trying to mediate, they are trying to investigate a matter which is a sole, responsibility of the judiciary. Let's apply the same secret too to question 4. I told you already that this question is from international organization, and we have different international organizations. We have some international organizations that are regional. For example, ECOWAS is regional. ECOWAS only capture West Africa. And we have some that are more regional than the other. Some are, how do I call it, continental, like AU. AU capture all the countries in Africa. But we have some that are intercontinental. So we have regional, like ECOWAS. We have continental, like AU. EU also is continental. EU capture countries in the Europe. AU is also continental. AU, that's African Union. EU is European Union. African Union capture countries in Africa. But for United Nations, it's intercontinental. Yes, United Nations captures almost all the countries of the world. There are only about 5% or 2% of the countries of the world that are not under United Nations. Almost all the countries of the world are under United Nations. Now, the answer to this question, which of these is not an organ? Because by the time we trace the origin of that question, obviously we'll be able to answer it. Which of these is not an organ of the United Nations? Now, it is the NATO. Because what NATO means, NATO is an organization on itself. It doesn't have anything to do with the UN. NATO is not an Atlantic Treaty Organization. But Security Council, International Court of Justice, General Assembly is part, of the UN. Let's apply the same secret to question 5. Which of the following is a pressure group rather than a political party? By the time you trace the topic, you will trace it to a place where you will have to define pressure group. Pressure group can also be called interest group, whose aim and objective is to influence governments for their own interest. For example, we have Nigerian Union of Teachers. Nigerian Union of Teachers, we want to influence governments to make policy that will be in the interest of teachers. We have Manufacturer Association of Nigeria, MAN. Manufacturer Association of Nigeria, we want to influence government to make policy, so to say, that will be in the good interest of manufacturers. So that is what pressure group is about. And we have types of pressure group. By the time you investigate the topic, you'll be able to know it. We have a anomic pressure group, we have associational, we have professional, we have religious, pressure group, and so on. Now, what's political party? Political party is a party whose aim and objective is to control government, which means is to win. So if you have a political party, what they want to do is to win, is to win political power at any level, maybe at federal level, state level, or local government level. So you see that pressure group and political party, they are distinct in objectives. All right. Now, which of these is pressure group? Obviously, it is Labour Congress. PDP is political party. National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons is political party. AG is also political parties. All right. What is the third secret when you want to solve past question? The third secret is that ask yourself, what are other questions that can come out from the same topic? Look at it. This question 1, we trace it that the question is from constitution, constitutionalism, monarchical system of government and type of monarchical system of government. But what you will do to yourself, the good you will do to yourself as a student that is aiming academic heights, excellence, is to ask yourself, what are other likely questions that may come from the same topic? Because if you are solving a past question, it doesn't mean that during your own exam, that's exactly what you will see. So you may see a different question, but from the same topic. For example, You are solving a past question, what you see is constitutional monarch. In your own exam, the question might come from absolute monarch, or the question can come from constitutionalism. What's constitutionalism? You see, the same topic but different question. So what you will do is that you will try to set question yourself. You will try to set as many as possible questions that you know can come out from the same topic yourself and answer it. So, and we will just quickly do that. So we have question like this, number one. Now, question can come from what is constitution and what are the type of constitution we have. You know, we have rigid constitution, flexible constitution, federal constitution, confederal constitution, unitary constitution, and the likes. They can ask you what are the sources of constitution. You understand? You answer that also. They can ask you what is absolute monarch. You answer that also. Example of country that practices absolute. Even the same question, they may not, you can find it in your own exam and they will not ask it this way. They can simply ask you that which of the following country practices constitutional monarchy. You know, that's a different question from the same topic. So you have to prepare yourself. You have to set question yourself. So set at least 10 to 15 likely questions you know can come out of the same topic. Because when you are solving past questions, you should know that what you are going to find in your exam is not the same past question. Because JAMB is aware of what you are reading. JAMB is aware. So JAMB is aware. So JAMB is aware that you are solving past questions also. So you don't expect that in your exam, maybe WAEC, NECO, or whatever exam you are writing, you don't expect that you will see the question the same way. Are you getting it? But it can come from the same topic. All right. For this system of government, also, just like I said, it can come from confederal, it can come from federal, it can come from unitary, it can come from presidential. And they can ask you to cite example of a confederalism. They can ask you to cite example of a unitary government. They can ask you to cite example of federal. And they can even ask you questions based on how Nigeria practices their own federalism. For example, they can ask you, what is the most profound problem of Nigeria federalism? And another one, they can ask you that, why did Nigeria adopt federalism? Because Nigeria could have adopted unitary system of government. Just like UK, you know, Nigeria was colonized by Britain. Yet we didn't adopt unitary system of government. Why? So look at it. Different question, but from the same topic. If you go to this quasi-judiciary also, in your own question, they may not ask you a quasi-judicial function. They may ask you quasi-executive function. They can ask you that, what is the example of a quasi-executive function that legislature plays? So you have to understand, okay, what are the quasi-executive functions that the judiciary plays? What are the quasi-executive functions that the legislative play? You will do the same for all of the arms of government. What are the quasi-legislative functions that the executive play? What are the quasi-legislative functions that the judiciary play? And I can cite one example for you. For the judiciary, they also have a particular quasi-legislative function they perform. There's something called case law. Case law are laws that are made by the judiciary. And don't forget, the primary function of the legislature is to make law. But there's a sense in which the judiciary also make some law. So are you getting? So the moment judiciary does that, what they are doing is quasi-legislative function. So the third secret is that try to set as many questions as possible from the same question. If you want to do it from UN also, they can ask you that which of the organs of the UN has veto power? That's the Security Council. So they may not ask you the question like this. And the same thing is coming from the UN. They can ask you which of these international organizations was predecessor to UN. That is League of Nations. So they are asking you questions from the same United Nations, but different questions from what you have seen in your past question. That is why you must take it as a responsibility upon yourself to set questions as many as possible for yourself and answer it. They can ask you where is the headquarters of ICJ, International Court of Justice, is in Hague, Nigeria. They can ask you which of the United Nations organ is most represented. That's the General Assembly. We can apply the same to question 5. What are the possible questions that can come out from the same topic? For example, they can ask you that, what is the difference between pressure group and political party? And the major way that pressure group differs from political party is in their aim and objective. And the question can come from maybe a particular type of pressure group, especially anomic pressure group. There is a type of pressure group called anomic. A-N-O-T-I-C. And they can even ask you that Labour Congress is under what type of pressure group. They can ask you Nigeria Union of Teachers is under what type of pressure group. They can ask you Nigeria Bar Association is under what type of pressure group. So you set for yourself possible question that can come out from the same topic. Look at political party. They can ask you which of these political parties is the first in Nigeria. That may be the question they ask you. You understand? All right. So that is secret theory. At this junction, please subscribe to my channel. Make sure you like, share, let it gain widespread. Make sure that people that need this video get to see it because of you. Thank you. All right. What's the fourth secret? The fourth secret is a bit similar to the third secret. Is there any way this same question can be asked? You know, the third secret is that what are the possible questions that can be asked from the same topic, which means that the questions will be different. But what I'm saying for secret 4 is that, is there any other way that this same question can be asked? You know, if you say female and you say girl or you say lady, you're almost saying the same thing. So it's just like synonyms. And you need to know in government we also have synonyms. That's one secret. As government students, you must master the synonyms of government. I write a textbook on it already. You must master the synonyms of government. So, because you know, I told you already that JAMB know the limitation of your knowledge. All of this examination body, they know what you are studying, they know what you are reading. So there is a way they can ask the same question, but they will use different terms, different words to confuse you. Let me give you a typical example. When you are given a question, and the possible answer is meant to be maybe electorate, they may decide not to put electorate in the option, and they will just put populace in the option, or they put voter in the option. Meanwhile, these three things I just mentioned do the same thing. So you yourself, you think of, is there any way that they can ask this same question, like this same question, but in another form and manner? They can ask you like this question. Let's apply it to this question. They can ask you, what is the degree of the power of the monarch in a constitutional monarchy? They're asking you the same question, but they just use different words for it. This question also, a system of government in which the component units retain considerable. So this same question they can ask you, that a system of government in which a part of a federation can easily secede. Meanwhile, they will not say breakaway, because they know that you can easily understand what breakaway means. So they will use a term that may look technical. They will use secede. So I will now start asking yourself, what's the meaning of secede? Meanwhile, secession means breaking away. So it's still the same question, but asked in a different way. Because you won't see your past question the same way it will be in your exam. It's not so. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. Even if I'm meant to set an exam for you, I won't give you in the same word with which I teach you. Because as a student, I want you to think. I want you to think deeply. I don't want a student that are shallow. You understand? So I may say the same thing that I've taught you in class using different words to ask the same question. Let's apply it to this. Now, they can ask that which of the following perform a function that is similar to that of judiciary. It's still the same question. To this, which of the following is not an organ of the United Nations? They can just ask you that which of the following has nothing to do with United Nations. It's as simple as that. And this also, which of the following is a pressure group rather than a political party? They can ask this way, that which of the following aims to influence government rather than winning government? Meanwhile, what they are just asking is that which of the following is a pressure group rather than political party? Look at it. It's the same thing, but using different words. So they can say which of the following aims to influence government policy rather than winning governmental seats. It's still the same question. So secret 4, don't forget, is that think about how the same question can be asked in a different way. It's still the same question, but in a different way. What's now the last secret? Don't forget, subscribe, like, drop your comments. If you have any question, you can drop it in the comments, and please share it widely. What is the last secret? Secret 5. The last secret is that don't ignore the options. I've seen students solve past question. Maybe you have a question, and the moment you come across the question, you know the answer already. So you just choose your answer and leave. No. If you are solving past question, because you are not in exam hall, you tackle past question as though you are reading. So what to do? How wise to tackle past question is to tackle past question as though you are reading. So what to do is that even if you know the answer to the question asked already, don't ignore any option. Because an option in a particular year can be your own question in another year. So when you are solving past question and you see that, okay, the answer to question 1 is unlimited. Okay, we don't have issues with this question 1. Let's use question 2. It's a typical example of that. Now, for example, the moment you see this question 2, you know that the answer is confederal. But don't rush. Ask yourself, have I seen federalism before? Is this also in government? Have I seen unitary system of government before? Is this also in government? Have I seen presidential system of government before? So what you do is that you take a pen and a jotter, a notebook, and you write out everything you see in the option that you have not heard before, or you have not seen before, or you have not been taught before in your government class. And you try to work on it to know it, because an option here, which is not even an answer, can be a question in another year. So if you ignore, for example, now you are solving the past question and you come across a question, and because you know the answer, confederal, you just skip it. But you don't know what presidential system of government means, and you ignore it. During your own exam, presidential system of government may be the question. Not just an option. So an option is also there for you to explore. So you can check for the same way. Just for like this question 4 also, you can check, okay, Security Council. What are the functions of Security Council? Like now we have 15 members in Security Council, 10 non-permanent and 5 permanent. International organization. What are the functions of international organization? General Assembly. What are the functions of General Assembly? Even though we know the answer already. Question 5 also. Though we know the answer, that the answer is Labour Congress. Don't ignore PDP. So don't ignore National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons. For example now, if you don't ignore it, you will ask yourself, what is NCNC? When was NCNC created? And why do we have Cameroon, appearing on a political party in Nigeria? That will also lead you to a wealth of knowledge in government. So that is why it is dangerous to ignore other options, even now that you know your answer. So when you are solving past questions, nobody is rushing you. You are solving it on your own, except a teacher gives you, the question to solve, and there is, a particular time allocated to you. So you can rush up and answer your question. But if you are solving it on your own, nobody is chasing you. Calm down. You can stay 2 hours, even on 5 questions. But by the time you are done with that 5 questions, I'm telling you the truth, you have known a lot. You have been able to gather a lot of information that will help you eventually. So I want to believe that this secret I've shown you is helpful. Once again, I am Master the Genius, and you will be seeing me appearing in your screen. So this particular video, please subscribe. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and share it. Share it widely. Make sure that there are many people that need this video that get to know about this thing through you. So till I see you once again. Bye.